director's job is to know how to turn an idea into a script and tell a story good enough to keep the audience's attention throughout the whole film, thanks to visual and audio cues. However, Céline Sciamma did it in a more complex way. A movie with zero action and zero music, focusing entirely on storytelling and framing, reaching the hardest level for any director. And to be able to do that,
you need a method. I do have my way of doing it.
Her method is simple but radical, and it's built around one single concept.
Desire. To me, writing is about having desires for ideas. Therefore, it is always about trying to build an architecture of multiple desires. As a writer, you are only asked about desire as an initial spark that puts you at work, the desire to write that story. To me, the fact that screenwriting is the opportunity to work on your desires rather than acting immediately on them. My job as a screenwriter is to work on locating that place where desire is precisely hitting.
Now, that might actually sound very abstract, but there are 3 steps she follows that give her crazy results. And you can actually see it in every movie she makes.
The first step is identifying and locating your global desires. Understanding them and be honest about them. Political desire, aesthetic desire, production desire, you have to locate them and trust them enough to deconstruct them.
For Portrait of a Lady on Fire, those global desires were clear, and she said it herself. She wanted to write the present of a love story, how it is born and how it grows, but also the memory of it, what remains. She wanted to show an artist at work. She wanted a period piece that felt contemporary, and she wanted to tell a love story based on equality, just 2 women facing each other.
The second step is about working on a local level, which means the scene. The scenes are at the center of my writing process, each scene as a unit of desire.
Now, Sciamma uses 2 lists to separate the scenes. The first list is free, scenes you want to see, images, lines of dialogue. They don't need to connect to the plot yet, they just need to impact you. For Portrait, that list included a woman running fast towards the edge of a cliff, a character actually set on fire, a group of women singing an unknown tune in the night, and the last scene of the film. These are scenes that as a director you just want to see because they already exist in your mind before the script does. And then there's the second list, the scenes you actually need. The steps that build the story logically. The scene where the painter arrives. The scene where the sitter sees her portrait for the first time. The scene where the maid gets an abortion. These scenes seem easier to write because they belong. They are needed. But here's her rule. Not a single scene can stay on the needed list. Every single one must become desired.
My work is all about making them belong to the other list. They must become desired. Every single one of them. My rule is that not a single scene must stay on the needed list.
So for example, there's the abortion scene. On paper, it's a needed scene. It moves the plot forward. But Sciamma found her desire for it. She transformed a scene that could be simple, just a quick abortion, a short scene, into a long, devastating scene that you can't forget. She made that needed scene into something that impacts. And that's actually what turning a needed scene into a desired scene looks like in practice. Another example is the first kiss scene. It was on the needed list, of course. Every love story needs a first kiss. But Sciamma wasn't satisfied with how first kisses are usually done. She made a list of first kiss ideas. She thought about choreography. What leads you to the kiss is what you remember, not the kiss itself. And then she came up with the idea of them having to unveil their mouths, like they would undress themselves. So again, she transformed a needed scene into something she desires, something more complex, something that's not easy to forget. It's a scene you truly desire to see and make.
You have to care about every detail. So no scene should stay in the list of the scenes that you need. Every scene has to have its own desire within. The biggest job is thinking strongly about each scene in that need list and find something that hits you accurately, which means deeply.
Taking the time to think about the little details of a scene will make you think about your desires, or the movie's desires, in an unconscious way. That's why you have to care about every single detail. And not only that, when you're on set, you're going to get hundreds of questions. What color is the costume? What are they eating? What's the weather like? You have to answer all of them anyway, so you might as well make every single one of those answers meaningful. And here's the most radical part. If a scene stays too long on the needed list without finding its desire, she doesn't try to fix it, she deletes it.
At the stage of my fourth film, I decided to get rid of the scenes which had been sticking for too long in the needed list. I just erased them. It puts you in a position when you now have two scenes you want, without the bridge of the scene you need. But it actually produces editing within the script and confronts you to new narratives or rhythm. Makes you be more experimental.
At this point, you read your film as a whole, and you start to see a pattern, what your higher desire was all along.
Once you have all your scenes as a list of strong desire and local solutions, you then have your narrative, and you can actually read your film and go back to this global scale.
For Portrait, Sciamma realized her biggest desire was to tell a love story without internal conflict between the two women. There's no manipulation or lies. Their relationship is completely equal. The conflict exists, but it lives outside the room, society, the era, the arranged marriage. Sciamma makes the decision not to show that conflict directly. She leaves it waiting outside, while inside there is only desire.
Those decisions are hard to take because we are born and raised in cinema being taught that conflict is the natural dynamic of the storytelling. And that a good scene is, in a way, a good bargain between characters. So no conflict. Boring? I got the best screenplay award in Cannes. So maybe. But also I guess not. Lack of conflict doesn't mean lack of tension. Lack of conflict doesn't mean lack of eroticism. Lack of conflict actually means new rhythm because of a dialogue not built on bargaining. Lack of conflict actually means new power dynamic that allows surprises and new suspense.
And that decision changed everything. Because when two characters aren't fighting each other, you don't know what's going to happen next, which is exactly what keeps you watching. And not only that, most screenwriting teachers will tell you to write detailed backstories for your characters, where they grew up, what their childhood was like, what their surname is. Sciamma does none of that.
And I must say, I don't work at all thinking about character design. It's not part of my process. I never think about characters as fictional persons. I don't think about them out of the timeline and the context of the scenes. Like, what should she do? How would she think? Characters are never hypotheses. I don't think about backstories for them. I don't even give them surnames. When I'm asked about the future of my characters, I honestly answer that they don't exist. I don't think about their resume. I just know how they act and what they go through in the present of the narrative. Which means that here again, I focus on their desires.
And you can see it in Portrait. We never know Marianne's surname, we never know Eloise's full name, we don't know where they came from or what their lives were like before this moment. Sciamma only cares about what they desire right now. And that's why they feel so real. Not because we know their history, but because we know exactly what they want right now. And that exact process has brought her to make the most beautiful, quiet, but still intense movie, which I think everybody can learn from.